Hello.
Um,
How's your week been? What have you learned? What have you done? I saw you doing some amazing things.
yeah. I don't even know how to talk about it. Let me think. I got to get my thoughts together. Let's have a cuppa.
Oh yeah, I left my cuppa downstairs. I'll pretend.
Okay.
You have a cuppa. While you're having a cuppa, I'll tell you something I did.
Yeah.
And then you can
Yeah.
uh then you can tell me what you did. I run a community singing group here, and we had our first group for the year last night. And it was an absolute debacle and hilarious and wonderful. And there was singing, and there was me playing the piano very badly because it turns out I'd chosen one version in one key and one version in the other. And it was just hilarity. And I loved it. And it was so wonderful.
Aw, I love that.
Yeah. So we fluctuate from sort of 4 people to up to sort of 20 people, depending on who can come. So last
Aw.
night was small and hilarious and the best thing I've done all week. It was so good.
What piece did you choose?
Uh, me, chose a cheese to the max. This is me from The World's Greatest Showman. Because it's so cheesy and so predictable, but so sing-alongable and so uplifting. We loved it. It
That's
was great.
fun.
It was very good. What have you done?
Yeah, I am having a little bit of a brain. I don't know. It's not really a fog. It's more just kind of like I'm floating right now. I think that
Ah,
happens after you exert a lot of energy mentally and emotionally and
yeah,
into a project. And yeah, so I feel like I'm just kind of like, let's just do a breathing exercise today.
we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a wonderful week coming blooming into my
Mm,
being and sharing my gifts with the world.
mm.
It's always a funny thing. I'm really glad I was a performer for 15 years because I remember the first few times I was sharing a new song. And is that your cat?
It's a cat, not a rat, I promise. Yeah. No rats today.
Thank God.
Yeah, sorry.
Um,
You were sharing a new what? A new song?
no, I remember when I first started performing and I would be sharing a new
Oh,
song and I'd have to have the notes in front of me.
yeah.
And because I was still sort of trying to find my way with the song, but I really wanted to start sharing it. And when you're first sharing something, you do all those silly things like, this is the first time I'm playing this song.
Yeah,
Like, you
you
tell anybody
apologize.
that. But it's just something we do to bring ourselves back into.
Self-soothe.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
But yeah, it just was a very interesting experience because I had preparing for this workshop I was going to lead on trauma informed spiritual care. The lead up to preparing for it was like a cyclone. I was having constant and somatic reactions to trying to
Oh,
prepare for this. And one, it was for a group that I have extremely high respect for and want to offer my very best to
mm.
and not compromise anything or cause any kind of harm or
Yeah, make anything worse than it already
worse
is.
than it is. Exactly. I'm
Yes.
like, okay, how can I prepare this meal so everyone can, it's palatable and everyone can enjoy it and nobody walks away with food poisoning?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of have this process I go through where my grandma was a quilter and I remember going to her quilting circles and they would have all these pieces of fabric and swatches from t-shirts and jeans and sheets and they'd kind of rip them into different shapes and nothing was symmetrical. Everything was just kind of ripped and then they'd fit it
Yeah.
in the quilt. It's
Yes.
called a crazy
Yeah.
quilt. I never learned to quilt, but I learned a lot by observing this quilting circle. So the way I write papers or
Mm.
presentations or songs is I end up having all these little scraps that I accumulate, thoughts and ideas and lines. and they kind of just are all over on all kinds of different sticky notes. And now they're all on my computer, but they're everywhere on my computer. There's no order to them. And when it's time to create, I just go searching for them all. And I bring the ones that seem to be the most coherent and work together into one pile. And then I begin to put the crazy quilt together. So
Wow.
that's kind of my creative process, I guess. And I use that for everything, cooking, for writing, for planning a trip, whatever.
That's amazing. That's so different from the way I put something together, and it's really interesting. I too, obviously am a performer from way back, and also am glad that I have a performance background when it comes to any sort of group teaching. But it's fascinating. I've always thought, even though I'm a performer, I am not particularly creative. I was always that kid that liked coloring in rather than drawing. And if I was drawing something, it needed to look right. Like it couldn't just be a thing. And I've often wondered about it. And even now, I come at that from a really linear educational way of putting something together. What's the aim of my blah blah blah, and then so how am I going to work backwards and get to that blah blah blah. But I like this idea of the crazy quilt when I've experimented with paintings when I haven't been doing commissions. So, commissions that you have to do somebody else's idea, which has some beautiful things in it all just by itself, with the mindfulness of having to really look and really do all of that. But every now and then I get to do a painting just for myself, and I feel like it's more like what you're describing, the crazy quilt.
Yeah.
I love that idea of finding the bits that resonate together and then working it from there. I'm going to give that a go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jen.
You're welcome. Well, it was a bit of a handicap in academia, because in academia you're meant to follow linear pattern, and so I couldn't write a thesis because I was like, well, I got to get all my fabric together. I got to get all my like little bits and pieces together and figure out what this is saying to me. It's just fascinating to me, because as I was trying to put together the flow, I knew kind of the pieces I wanted to talk about, but as I was trying to put together the flow, I kept having a block, and I would get really fatigued and tired and have to lay down, or I'd all of a sudden be like doing laundry, or I'd be walking to the beach, and I'm just like, I have to get this done. Like I have to get this outlined, or I'm not going to know what to say when I get there, or the order to say it in. I'll just start talking, and it'll go around, and people will be basically just looking at all my swatches. I want to show them the quilt. What ended up happening was I finally sort of figured out how to get it all outlined and in order well enough that I could sort of begin to move my way through the PowerPoint and feel somewhat comfortable teaching what I was teaching. But when I got there, I was moved out of my room to the outdoors, and I didn't have power, so I couldn't use my PowerPoint or my computer. It's just like, oh, okay. But you know what ended up happening was all these swatches that I have written down, all these, pieces of fabric that all sort of had to come out of my being. And so as I was sharing, it all of a sudden I started to feel this energetic flow, and it just started like coming up out of me.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, this is what it feels like going back to performance. This is what it feels like when I perform, and I really am being the song. And it's coming out of me. And I just didn't know I was ready for that to happen yet, because I've been using the PowerPoint,
Yeah, sure. That just goes to show that you really, really know your onions, hey? It's
You really know your onions?
Yeah. Have you not? It's a turn of phrase. You know your onions.
What does that mean?
You know your onions. Maybe it's a Tasmanianism. It means you know what you're talking about.
I know the inside of the onion, but I'm not sure I have the whole onion yet, like all the layers.
I don't think it's that deep, Jana. I think it literally just means you know one onion apart from another. like, don't tell me about onions, you know, that kind of, don't you come the raw prawn with me. It's that kind of,
What? Wait, what was that last one? The royal prawn.
don't you come the raw prawn with me. There are all these, we need to teach you all of these Australianisms.
That's
Yeah.
what I want to talk about.
Yeah, no, because you don't want the raw prawn in one of your sessions. You don't want food poisoning emotionally. So yeah, you want not the raw prawn. You want to know your onions. I don't know how this happened in Australia.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I have a little bit more pep in my step now than when we first started, but I still feel kind of mellow.
Yeah, that's okay. You might need to be mellow for like a couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think it takes a lot out of you spiritually and emotionally when you're leading a bunch of people. It's even more so than when you're leading just one, you know,
yeah.
it takes a lot.
Well, are you going to sing me a song today?
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. It's a Lunig.
A what?
A Lunig. It's a Lunig poem. Lunig is like a famous cartoonist and poet.
Oh,
You'll have to Google him. Yeah.
okay.
Okay. It goes like this. Let it go. Let it out. Let it all unravel. Let it free. And it can be a path on which to travel. That's it.
I love that. That was beautiful. That's
Yeah.
perfect for where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Yes. Love you, girl.
Love you too. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.